of Silent Promises. The little town of Belmere was quiet, tucked between rolling hills and a river that reflected the sky like a mirror. At the center of it all stood an old wooden bridge, worn, creaking, and weathered by time. People said it held the whispers of lovers who once crossed it, carrying promises in silence. Lena had lived in Belmere her entire life. She loved the familiarity of it, the bakery that opened at dawn, the children's laughter echoing in the park, the slow rhythm of the river. But deep inside, she longed for something more, a love that would make her feel alive. One autumn evening, while sketching by the bridge, Lena met Daniel. He was a traveler, a photographer who claimed he was chasing sunsets and stories. With his camera hanging from his neck and a restless look in his eyes, he was unlike anyone she had ever met. "Do you believe in promises made without words?" Daniel asked, pointing at the bridge. Lena smiled softly. "I think the strongest promises are the ones you never have to speak." From that moment, something invisible pulled them together. They began meeting by the river, sometimes talking for hours, sometimes saying nothing at all, just watching the world move around them. Daniel would show her his photographs, vast deserts, crowded cities, oceans that seemed endless. And Lena would share her sketches, quiet corners of Belmere, delicate details of leaves and faces she observed. Through their art, they discovered each other's souls. As winter approached, the town turned silver under frost. Daniel confessed one night, standing on the bridge, "I never stay in one place too long. But with you, Lena, I feel like maybe I could." Her heart trembled, torn between hope and fear. "Then stay," she whispered. But promises are fragile things. Spring arrived, and with it came Daniel's restlessness. He received an offer to photograph a project abroad, an opportunity he had dreamed of long before he met her. The night before he left, they stood again on the bridge, silence wrapping them like a blanket. He reached for her hand. "If I go, will you wait for me?" Lena's eyes glistened. "Only if you promise to return." He kissed her forehead and said nothing. Sometimes, silence carried the loudest vow. Months stretched into years. Letters came at first, postcards filled with sunsets, crowded markets, and quick notes of "I miss you." But slowly, the letters stopped. The bridge stood still, weathering Lena's quiet waiting. One late summer evening, when the air was warm and heavy with the scent of wildflowers, Lena walked to the bridge out of habit. And there he was, Daniel, older, wearier, but with the same restless eyes softened now by longing. His camera still hung from his neck, but it was his gaze that caught her breath. "I kept my promise," he said, voice trembling. Lena felt her tears fall, but her smile was brighter than the stars above them. "And I kept mine." That night, the Bridge of Silent Promises held another vow. This time, one they intended to keep forever. Whispers beneath the lantern sky. The first time Adrian saw Clara was on a rainy evening in the old quarter of the city. She was standing beneath a canopy of lanterns that swayed in the wind, her notebook clutched tightly to her chest. The market around them buzzed with chatter and the fragrance of roasted chestnuts. But for Adrian, time had slowed to a single frame. Her gentle smile, the raindrops caught in her hair, the way her eyes seemed to search for something beyond the crowd. Adrian, a painter struggling to find inspiration, had been wandering aimlessly that night, hoping the city lights would stir his weary soul. Instead, he found her. Clara was a writer, though she rarely admitted it to strangers. Her notebook was filled with unfinished poems, pieces of her heart scattered in ink. Their meeting was simple. He offered her his umbrella, and she laughed, pointing out that he was already soaked. But she accepted, and they walked together through narrow streets, lantern light flickering above like stars lowered to earth. Days turned into weeks. They began meeting at the Riverside Cafe, where the chairs were old but the coffee strong. He painted while she wrote, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing fragments of their creations. Clara loved how Adrian's paintings captured the softness of fleeting moments, and Adrian was drawn to the quiet strength in her words. One evening, Clara read him a poem she had written about the fear of losing something before it even began. Adrian listened carefully, then reached for her hand. "Not everything ends in loss," he whispered. "Some stories are meant to be written together." It wasn't always easy. Clara carried a past she rarely spoke of, shadows of heartbreak that made her hesitate. Adrian, too, wrestled with doubt, the kind every artist knows, fear that his work, his love, his very self might never be enough. Yet in their moments together, they found courage. They wandered through autumn parks, the air crisp with fallen leaves. They argued about books, only to end up laughing in each other's arms. On winter nights, they shared warmth by candlelight, promising nothing more than honesty and presence. Years later, when Adrian unveiled his first gallery, Clara stood beside him. Among the paintings was one of a girl beneath lanterns in the rain, notebook in hand, eyes full of longing. Clara touched the frame and smiled, recognizing the night their story began. "Do you still believe some stories are meant to be written together?" she asked softly. Adrian wrapped his arm around her. "Ours isn't just written," he said. "It's still being painted every single day." And beneath the glow of countless lanterns, their love continued, fragile at times, but enduring, a masterpiece stitched from words, colors, and two hearts that had found each other when they least expected it. The bridge by the river. On the outskirts of a quiet town, there was an old stone bridge arching across a gentle river. People often passed it by without much thought, but for Alina, the bridge was a place where time seemed to slow down. She loved to stand there in the evenings, watching the ripples of the water catch the fatting sunlight and listening to the song of crickets in the fields. One autumn evening, as the trees blushed in shades of crimson and gold, she noticed someone sketching at the far end of the bridge. A young man with dark hair, leaning over a notebook, capturing the scenery with swift strokes of his pencil. He was so absorbed in his work that he didn't notice her at first. Curiosity carried Alina closer. She stood quietly, watching the lines form into shapes, the outline of the river, the trees, even the bridge itself. When the man finally looked up, his eyes met hers with surprise. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there," he said with a sheepish smile. "No need to apologize," Alina replied softly. "Your drawing is beautiful." He laughed gently. "Thank you, I'm Daniel. I'm just passing through this town, but the view here was too perfect to ignore." From that moment, the bridge became more than a quiet refuge for Alina. It became a meeting place. Each evening, Daniel returned with his sketchbook, and each evening, Alina found herself drawn back to him. They talked about small things at first, the weather, books they liked, the stories hidden in the town's cobblestone streets. Slowly, the conversations grew deeper. Daniel told her he was an architect, traveling in search of inspiration for a project in the city. Alina, a school teacher, confessed her secret dream of writing a novel one day. He encouraged her, saying, "The way you describe this place, you already see the world like a writer." As days turned into weeks, the bond between them deepened. The townspeople began to notice Alina's brighter smile, the way she seemed lighter, as if she carried a secret joy. But Daniel's time was not endless. Winter crept closer, and his work in the city called him back. On their last evening at the bridge, the air was crisp, and the river shimmered under the silver light of the moon. "I don't want this to end," Alina whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel took her hand, his eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. "It doesn't have to. I may leave tomorrow, but what we found here, it's real. And I don't want to lose it. Will you wait for me?" Alina's heart raced. She had always lived a quiet, predictable life, but Daniel had awakened something inside her, a longing for more, for love that crossed distance and time. She nodded. "I'll wait." Months passed. Letters traveled back and forth between them, carrying pieces of their days, their dreams, their longing. Alina's words grew into stories. Daniel's sketches filled the margins of each page. Though the distance was hard, their love only deepened. Finally, one spring morning, Alina stood once again on the bridge. She wasn't alone. Daniel appeared at the far end, just as he had that first autumn day, his smile wide, his eyes full of the same warmth that had captured her heart. This time, he dropped his sketchbook and ran to her, pulling her into his arms. "I'm home," he whispered against her hair. The river flowed beneath them, steady and endless, carrying their memories. The old stone bridge, once just a quiet place, had become the beginning of their